buy drinks. Run up a check and it's pending. She talking my
Okay, today guys, we back with another YouTube video here. Today we're gonna be reacting to North Korea versus the United States, and we're gonna see what's going on in this video. Okay, let's get into it.
It's a rumble in the jungle, a showdown on the 38th parallel. The Hermit Kingdom of North Korea versus the United States of America. Kim Jong-un versus, well, we're not really sure who because this script was written before the presidential election. It's the American bald eagle versus the North Korean, trash pigeon? That doesn't really seem like North Korea has an official national animal. It's a showdown the world's been expecting for decades. But how do these two antagonist powers stack up? Who really has the advantage in a showdown on the Korean peninsula? For this scenario, let's compare the two countries alone and without the help of allies to see how they really measure up against each other. Overall, the United States is ranked as the world's #1 military power and currently the only global superpower. It's a common mistake to call Russia or China superpowers, but the definition of a superpower is a state that can exert economic, cultural, and military influence worldwide. Currently, the US is the only nation with the military fleets and cultural and economic clout to do so. North Korea is no slouch, though, in the military department, and despite being a financially destitute hermit kingdom, it's managed to field a military that places it at the number 25 spot in global rankings. This is because most of the official budget of the North Korean government goes to its military, and the military also receives hundreds of millions in covert financing, typically the result of state-sponsored criminal enterprises. In terms of manpower, the United States fields an active duty force of 1.4 million personnel versus North Korea's 1.28 million. The US also fields a greater force of reservists, with 860,000 personnel versus North Korea's reserve force of 600,000. The US barely has the numbers advantage here, but in a grueling multi-year conflict, the US has the population advantage, with 4.2 million reaching service age every year versus North Korea's measly 415,000. If North Korea wants to win, clearly it has to secure victory as quickly as possible. Wars cost money, though, and it turns out it's an extremely expensive affair. The latest US defense budget is about $750 billion versus North Korea's $1.6 billion. This, of course, is only the official government figure, and North Korea's real defense budget is easily hundreds of millions greater thanks to all that black market activity. Remember, kids, doing drugs may seem tubular, but you're just going to help North Korea go nuclear. But let's check out all the toys that those big budgets buy. In the air, the US fields 13,264 aircraft versus North Korea's 949. Not only
Yo, that is wow. Look at them. Look at that number difference. That is crazy. That's a big jump between numbers. Like, that is really wild. Because I already knew the US Air Force and Navy, them, like, the amount of vehicles and stuff they got is way higher than most countries out here. I think we got the biggest Navy out of every country, and that's just wild.
only is this a massive numbers disparity, but a huge disparity in capabilities as well. The US currently relies on the F-15 Eagle and the F-18 Super Hornet as its primary air defense and air attack platforms. These two aircraft are fourth-generation models, but have received serious upgrades to their capabilities which boost them into a fourth-and-a-half-generation capability. Complementing U.S. fighter forces are 187 F-22s, the world's only fully operational fifth-generation fighter, and officially the world's deadliest fighter aircraft. As more and more F-35s come online, however, and achieve initial operational capability status, the entire U.S. fighter fleet is poised to become fully fifth-generation, a significant battlefield advantage against any foe. North Korean air forces are decades behind the U.S. in capability. Its most numerous fighter aircraft, the Chengdu J-7, was developed in the 1960s and exported by China. Its most capable aircraft, the MiG-29, was deployed in the 70s as a counter to the American F-15. However, North Korea's MiG-29s number at only 35, and it's believed that they lack anything resembling modern avionics. To make matters worse, North Korea's entire inventory of air-to-air missiles herald back to the Cold War, and the nation possesses less than 500 of them. An air battle between the US and North Korea would be hopeless for the Hermit Kingdom, which is why its pilots are trained in kamikaze tactics. If war were to break out, North Korea's Air Force would launch one-way attacks across the DMZ, knowing its Air Force could never survive an air war. In the mountainous terrain of North Korea, perhaps no aircraft is more important, however, than the attack helicopter. Capable of taking out armored forces and providing recon and fire support in places regular aircraft would find it difficult to operate, attack helicopters would be of paramount importance in a showdown between the two countries. The U.S. fields an inventory of 967 Apache helicopters, one of the deadliest attack helos ever built. Not only is each Apache equipped with state-of-the-art electronics and sensors, but these agile birds are extremely tough to boot. When an entire flight of Apaches was ambushed in a protracted battle against insurgents on the ground in Afghanistan, the U.S. famously only lost a single bird while decimating ground forces below them. North Korea's 20 attack helos are Soviet-built MiG-24 Hinds, an extremely capable attack helicopter that, despite being dated, still packs an impressive punch. Good thing for the U.S. ground forces that North Korea only operates a small amount of these
Each one should sneak up on you.
powerful Russian birds of prey. On the ground, North Korea is almost neck and neck with the US in terms of armored forces, with 6,045 combat tanks versus the US's 6,289.
Dang, that's a close number. And what I thought it would have been. That's a close number right there.
The two tank armies are almost evenly matched in terms of numbers. In terms of quality, though, well, North Korea once more suffers greatly. North Korea's most formidable tank is a native upgrade to the Soviet T-62, known as Chonmahol, with the T-62 being North Korea's most numerous, nearly modern design. Large numbers of them were upgraded with new armor, fire, and sighting systems, and other sensors. In effect, these might be upgraded designs, but the core model is still the 1960s-era T-62. It's known that North Korea operates at least 1,000 of these tanks, but may have upwards of 1,200. North Korea's second most prolific tank is the T-54 and T-55, of which it operates 2,000. These dated, underpowered tanks were terrifying when first fielded by the Soviet Union in the 50s. But as Iraq found out in the first Gulf War, present absolutely zero threat to the U.S. modern Abrams. On the ground, North Korea's tank forces simply could not hope to do more than delay an American armored advance. One area where North Korea rises above the U.S., though, is in the size of its rocket artillery forces, fielding 2,110 versus the U.S.'s 1,366.
Yeah, that's something new to me. I ain't know about that one. That's new.
Rocket artillery may not have the endurance of fire of traditional artillery, but provides one extremely crucial advantage over regular artillery. By firing all of its munitions in extremely rapid succession, rocket artillery puts all of its steel on target within seconds, giving troops and vehicles little time to seek cover. While the U.S. fields more modern versions of rocket projectors, the technology is so simple that even North Korea's Soviet-era technology poses a significant and deadly threat to U.S. forces. On the seas, the U.S. fields a fleet of 490 ships versus North Korea's 984. North Korea may seem to have an advantage in numbers, but that's because the vast majority of its ships are small torpedo boats that can't operate far from shore. The second largest element of North Korea's navy is its underwater forces, with one of the world's largest submarine forces numbering anywhere between 60 and 80. 40 of these subs are the medium-sized diesel-electric Sango class, built in the late 90s. While not particularly advanced versus the U.S. Navy's Los Angeles and Virginia-class nuclear submarines, diesel-electric submarines used in a defensive posture close to the shore can be an incredibly effective force, even if technologically outclassed. By loitering near the shore and running silently on battery power, North Korea could simply choose to have these subs lie in wait for oncoming U.S. ships and launch deadly ambushes. The nation's willingness to operate these craft in a kamikaze style similar to its Air Force only adds to the deadliness of North Korea's submarine force. By comparison, the U.S. operates 66 submarines, most of which are Los Angeles-class attack submarines. These are in the process of being phased out by the new Virginia-class.
Tanks.
Which incorporates many of the Seawolf class technologies at a lower cost and thus with less effectiveness than the deadly Seawolf, which is sadly far too expensive to field in large numbers. 3 of the legendary Seawolf-class submarines remain in service with the Navy, with no near-term plans to retire them, though the Navy is planning on acquiring a new modern variant of the Seawolf to use on extremely important or sensitive missions. With 20 aircraft carriers, which includes smaller carriers meant to support amphibious operations, the US is guaranteed to have air power anywhere in the world it needs it. By comparison, North Korea has 0 aircraft carriers and could not hope to ever operate one in its current economic climate, let alone ensure it survives first contact against US forces. Despite all these naval advantages to the US though, North Korea once more has the advantage in one area: mine warfare. With 23 vessels especially equipped to mine sea lanes versus the US's 11, North Korea is poised to make an amphibious attack against it by the superior US fleet a costly affair in terms of manpower and equipment. Clearing sea mines is an extremely time-consuming and dangerous affair, and with so many mine-laying ships, North Korea could make entire beaches and ports completely inaccessible to US forces. The military advantage is clearly in favor of the US, but a showdown between the two countries is far more nuanced than merely comparing numbers. The US must maintain global commitments even during a war, meaning that it wouldn't be able to commit more than 30 to 40% of its total force to a conflict with North Korea. That brings the number parity way down on the US side, though the US's far superior equipment and training, or force multipliers, practically ensure a US victory. However, it would be an extremely costly victory for the US and its allies, as North Korea is one of the easiest trade arteries in the world. Then there's North Korea's nuclear program, the full extent of which is still not known. What is clear is that North Korea has the materials and technology for several bombs. Some estimates place the current North Korean stockpile at 30 to 40 weapons. Even though most of these weapons couldn't reach the US mainland, they would make any conflict on the peninsula an extremely dangerous affair, with a losing Kim Jong-un likely to decide to use nuclear weapons against US forces and South Korea, rather than be deposed as so many dictators before him. Now, go check out weird things that only exist in North Korea, or this other video instead.
Man, that was an interesting video right there, though. Man. So pretty much in certain categories, they got the same amount of vehicles though, but the U.S. technology is like more advanced than them. But it's like they were saying, they're able to put down mines, sea mines, so it'd be harder for the U.S. Navy to get through and stuff. And it would take even longer to get through because then they had to remove the mines and stuff. But yeah, but at the end of the day, it would be like somewhat of a victory if the U.S. win, but probably not that, because like he said, it's a chance that he could see them, North Korea could see the loss and then try to retaliate against like Japan, stuff like that, South Korea, try to take them out a little bit because they lost. But if you like the video, leave a like. If you like the content on the channel, subscribe. If you got any suggestions for any future videos, comment it down below. And I'll see you in the next one.
Heard them lasers talking now, and we don't pay that no mind. Didn't need to watch and all that, I'll be hearing no.